Good. It's 5:30.
One moment, please.
Some distortion here. Go ahead. So it's 5:30. I'd like to call this February finance meeting to order, and I'd like an approval of tonight's agenda. Moved by Mr. Denisha, seconded by Mr. Forsythe. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes from January 31st. Mr. Perkins, seconded by Mr. Smithers. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Thank you very much. First up is we have resolutions from Highway with Mr. Don Chambers. The first resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a roadside mowing contract. Moved by Mr. Perkins, seconded by Mr. Denisha. Discussion, Mr. Chambers.
Yes, thank you. This resolution is our annual resolution that we do with some towns to do our roadside mowing contract. This includes cutting the roadsides 3 times within these towns along county roads.
Any questions for Mr. Chambers? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Our next resolution is authorization to enter into a cooperative agreement with Franklin County Highway Department for road salt through the 2022-2023 St. Lawrence County salt bed. Moved by Mr. Forsythe, second by Mr. Fay. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, for the last several years, we have been doing a cooperative bid with Franklin County. I have spoken already with the superintendent, the new superintendent in Franklin County. He's supportive of this cooperative agreement continuing. The current, just for reference, the current county bid for salt is $65.61 a ton. Whereas if we bought it off the state contract, it is $94.16 a ton. The county is considering, saving a considerable amount by entering into this cooperative bid with Franklin County. All the municipalities within Franklin and St. Lawrence County are eligible to use this bid, and the majority of them do.
Okay. Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you. Usage this year. I know at my Lisbon Town Board meeting, I think they've been out 15 more times than last year, a couple, 3 weeks ago, year to date. How about you guys? Same?
I don't have that data, but since January, certainly we really even haven't had a January thaw, so to speak. So yeah, our usage is right up there.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
The next resolution is approving federal aid highway project supplemental agreement number 5 for additional funding for final design for the County Route 35 known as Slab City Bridge over Trout Brook, bid number 3341-700, pin number 775394. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Perkins. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, this fifth go around for contracts for this project will take us to the point of going out to bid and awarding the bids. The funding for the construction has not been allocated at this time, though. So, but this will take us through final design, right-of-way acquisition, and the bidding process.
Any questions for Mr. Chambers concerning the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a supplemental agreement number 2 with Stantec Consulting Services for additional engineering and design services for County Route 35 Bridge over Trout PIN number 3341-700, PIN number 775394, and modifying the 2022 budget for the Department of Highways. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Lightfoot. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, this resolution that you have before you is basically a companion to the state funding that goes along with the design. This will allow us to pay our consulting firm through final design, right-of-way acquisition, and into the bidding process. So this is just a companion resolution allowing us to complete the design on the project.
Okay, Mr. Denisha.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Don, Stantec Consulting, they are, where are they based out of?
Stantec is a multinational company with headquartered in Canada. Most of the individuals that we work with are based out of their Rochester, New York branch.
Okay, we have no local consulting firms that can do this work.
Under the New York State DOT approved vendors that we're using for this, Mr. Denisha, there are not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. Chambers? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Our next resolution is approving a federal aid local project supplemental agreement for right-of-way incidentals for the Lazy River Road Bridge or Grass River Federal Aid Highway Project. PIN number 3341-820, PIN number 775332, moved by Mr. Denisha, second by Mr. Smithers. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, much like what we just saw for the County Road 35 agreement that was in its fifth go around for approving various levels. This is for right-of-way incidentals, which is basically mapping out the area that would be impacted to build this project. The bridge will need to have a change in alignment, which will and improvement to the highway geometrics coming into and off this structure or the proposed structure. Again, that's just a continuation of this process and allowing us to move forward with the project and obtain federal and state funding for it.
Any questions for Mr. Chambers? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Mr. Chambers.
Thank you.
Our next up is our county attorney, Mr. Steve Button, and the resolution is authorizing the chair to sign an agreement between United Helpers, Inc. and the St. Lawrence County for recovery and recoupment of pass-through funding over payments. Moved by Mr. Perkins, seconded by Mr. Lightfoot and Ms. Curran. Mr. Button.
Good evening, everyone. The resolution you have before you is actually a resolution that authorized the chair to sign an agreement with United Helpers and the Community Services Department. Over the course of the past 10 years, there was a review of billings associated with pass-through money, and in order to resolve a dispute regarding the billed for services with United Helpers, we were required to settle through a settlement agreement. This would authorize the chair to execute that agreement. I believe you're already familiar with the terms of that agreement, so I won't go into the details as it was a product of litigation.
Any questions for Mr. Button? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Button. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Dinesh, you had a question? Okay, so Mr. Dinesh will be abstaining from the vote, I guess. Recusing, actually, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it'll be a recusal. Thank you, Mr. Dinesh. All right, so next up is our treasurer, Renee Cole. And the first resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a contract extension with Auctions International, Inc. for property tax auction services on foreclosed real properties in St. Lawrence County. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Perkins. Mrs. Cole.
Thank you. So An RFP was done in 2018 and Auctions International was identified as the most cost-effective service to the public. Since that time, we've held 4 annual auctions with Auctions International and have had much success. You know, most of you recall some of our auction results that we've had. So it's the desire of the county tax team to continue our relationship with Auctions International. And I have a couple of little data points related to that. Forgive me. I was a little late getting here, so I'm not quite as organized as I usually am on that. They've provided excellent customer service to us, and they're very responsive to requests. They're capable of the call volume that our auctions generate. They're relatively, something we've been really pleased with was the relatively seamless online auction during COVID. We had several setbacks. We had to reschedule it and we had to switch to an all online auction, which has been phenomenal. And we really aren't looking back from that. The average price per parcel, I have a comparison on that. For county foreclosure auctions for 2014 through 2017, our average per parcel bid was $6,510. For Auctions International, for the auctions 2018 through 21, that was $14,154. So it's substantially more per parcel that we're receiving on that. Under registration comparison, county foreclosure for 14 through 17, we averaged 266.75 registered bidders. Auctions International registered bidders were 371.75. Which a lot of that I think is also due to the fact that you can register and bid online. You don't have to be here in a physical location for that. So it's our hope that we can continue our relationship with them.
Okay, any questions for our county treasurer? Mr. Berg.
Renee, is the typical contract 5 years? Or are we just that satisfied with them?
What we've been doing is a 1 year, every year we sign a new agreement with them.
But
So this is for 4 years.
4 years.
23,
Okay.
for 23,
Yeah.
24, 25, and 26. And I do think that is typical.
Is the interest rate that they charge to the bidders, is that still 6%?
Yes. Yeah, they've agreed to the same terms and conditions that we've had in the past.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Our next resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Vineski and Company to prepare the annual indirect cost allocation report for the fiscal years of 2021, 2022, and 2023. Moved by Mr. Lightfoot, seconded by Mr. Perkins. And Ms. Curran. Go ahead, Renee.
Thank you. So this resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Vineski and Company to prepare the annual indirect cost allocation report for the fiscal years 21, 22, and 2023, to be more specific. The county adopted resolution 14-2016 as the result of an RFP. Since that time, we've had much success with Vineski. A chart summarizing indirect cost recovery project results is in the center of your resolution. I gave you the history with that. Their work identifies these costs that are claimable by departments that can claim indirect costs and lieu of rent. So what are indirect costs and what is it that Vineski prepares for you? They prepare a cost allocation plan. The purpose of that is to identify, accumulate, and allocate indirect costs of centrally provided services to the operating departments that receive these services. Examples of central service departments are central mailing and printing, human resources, information technology, county administrator, purchasing, county attorney, county auditor, county treasurer, buildings and grounds. There's certain fees that we pay that benefit all other departments too, like audit fees, association dues, and things like that. So the allocation of these indirect costs are made on a statistic determined most equitable for each respective service. some of the examples. What I meant by that is, so they'll take county attorney office costs and calculate the percentage of time devoted to other departments and funds. For the county auditor, that's the auditor that reviews every bill that's paid before we issue. They count the number of invoices by department and by fund. For the treasurer, they count the number of invoices because my office has final review on those. They also count the number of payroll checks by department and by fund. I use the projected cost of application-based services by department and fund. And so they take costs and they will distribute them throughout all county departments. There's only a certain number that can actually claim funding on it, but that's the whole point of it, is to calculate those costs that social services, public health, community services can file to receive state and federal aid on that. Vineski also prepares the space occupancy cost analysis report, and it's called the SOCA. The SOCA report contains the calculation of maintenance in lieu of rent, which is operating and capital costs. Because we don't pay rent, it doesn't mean that there's not a cost associated with the county building. So it summarizes the actual building related expenses applicable to each location for the year in question. The operating expenses include the cost to clean, maintain county facilities, and capital costs include depreciation, renovation, and interest on debt expenses. These costs then become the basis for the operating departments to claim federal and state reimbursements.
Okay, any questions for? Okay, any questions for Mrs. Cole? Renee, the 14,000, is that for each of the 3 years, or is that the total for the 3 years?
Yeah. That's the cost for every year to prepare these two reports. They are big projects, but that is the cost that they have held since we've started doing business with them.
Okay, so it's 14,000 annually then?
Yes, each year.
Okay, so we should add that. Everybody agree with that? The 14,000 annually? Okay, anyone else? Seeing no more questions, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Renee. Next up, Human Resources, we have Johnny Dorothy. The first resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Excelis Blue Cross Blue Shield to purchase stop loss insurance and modifying the 2022 budget. Moved by Mr. Forsythe, second by Mr. Lightfoot and Ms. Curran. Go ahead, Ms. Dorothy.
Good evening. So the Health Insurance Committee is recommending to purchase stop loss insurance due to continuously rising high health insurance costs. The purpose of stop loss insurance is to provide financial protection by capping and defining a plan's financial exposure. It would insure the county against catastrophic losses. In January, Burnham provided information to the Health Insurance Committee on a 5-year look back, which illustrated that if St. Lawrence County had purchased a $300,000 specific stop loss policy, we could have seen an overall savings of over $3 million in that 5 years. We are looking to use the funds from the reserve account set up in 2018 for such liability. The account balance currently is $1.5 million, and we'd use this for the policy to put into effect a policy for the remainder of 2022. And then in subsequent years, the premium would be calculated in the premium equivalent rates after negotiating with the unions. And I sent out an MOA to the unions last week for signature. And we did discuss this with the unions last week. They seemed in our meeting very much in favor of this.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Dorothy? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Our next resolution is authorizing wage increases for positions categorized as flat rate medical providers. Moved by Mr. Perkins, second by Mr. Forsythe. And Ms. Curran. Ms. Dorothy.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
So we're seeking authorization to provide annual wage increases to professional medical providers in a flat rate category salary positions based on the annual wage increases received by all other flat rate positions. All other flat rate positions are currently allocated to a management band with an associated step scale, which gets updated according to annual wage increases negotiated by the CSEA union. So these medical provider positions are not associated with the management band and have salaries based on specific resolutions. And these employees, in turn, the employees in these positions have not been receiving regular annual increases over the years. And these particular positions are hard to recruit positions. They're medical provider positions such as physician assistants, nurse practitioners, MDs.
Okay, any questions for Mrs. Dorothy concerning this resolution? Mr. Burke?
What about successive years? It addresses the problem for this year. Are they going to be put in this management band, or how will that be addressed? Or do we have to look at this every year?
Well, what this resolution, I'm hoping to do with this resolution is that we will put it on, they will receive the same increases, overall increases that are negotiated with CSA union, which also management band positions also receive. So it would be continuous every year. So if there was a 2.75% increase, for next year in CSDA, they would also get this 2.75, just like anybody in the management band.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Dorothy? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Johnny. Next up for Workforce Innovative and Opportunity Act, we have Barb Lajo. And the resolution is authorizing the treasurer to modify the PY21 WIOA budget to transfer formula funds from dislocated worker accounts to adult training accounts. Moved by Mr. Perkins, second by Mr. Forsythe and Ms. Berman. Okay, go ahead, Barb.
Thank you. Good evening, all. This transfer of $60,000 is permissible by our funding agency. It provides for a little more flexibility and ensures that WIOA is able to provide services to as many eligible participants as possible. It also assures that no eligible participant will be denied services, including training, due to the transfer of funds.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Lajo? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Barb.
Thank you.
Next up, for the Industrial Development Agency, we have Patrick Kelly, and I think his stand-in is going to be Mr. Fotenhauer. And the resolution is approval of payment in lieu of taxes agreement in relation to solar project on parcel 64.002-6-1. Moved by Mr. Reagan, second by. Is there a second? Mr. Forsythe. Okay, and Mrs. Haggard. Okay, Jason, Mr. Fotenhauer, if you would, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, all. This resolution is to approve a pilot payment agreement for a solar project over in the town of Potsdam. The IDA has done a lot of these projects, a lot of pilot projects for numerous solar developments around the county. What's unique about this one is that the applicant is looking to do only a 15-year pilot, a 15-year time frame for the pilot agreement, and the IDA, that's outside of the IDA's parameters. They require longer terms. So the applicant is looking to do an agreement directly with the taxing jurisdictions, one of which is the county. So this resolution would authorize the pilot agreement between the county and the applicant for the solar project. The terms are, as I mentioned, 15 years, and the rate is $1,159 per megawatt of nameplate capacity, and there would be an escalator of 2% on an annual basis. So that 159 would go up annually for 15 years, or 14 years, I guess.
Mr. Lightfoot.
Do the terms for payment come close or are equal to similar sized projects? And is the per megawatt, excuse me, payment based on the capacity of the site or the actual number of megawatts produced?
It's to answer your questions in reverse order, I guess the megawattage is for the specific site. So it's anticipated that this site will be around 4.4 megawatts. It could change as it's being developed. That's why that specific number, the 4.4, wasn't put in the resolution. It's just based on what the megawatt development will be in its final form. And the second question, I'm sorry, did I answer the second question with that response?
Well, my question is the $1,159 per megawatt, is that equivalent to or less than other projects per megawatt?
Right. My understanding is that that is sort of the going rate. Now it is based on the pro rata percentage that the county gets. So the county gets 23, I believe, 23.18% of the total amount that would be assessed through the pilot. The other taxing jurisdictions, the school district, the town would get that other percentage. Yes, my understanding is that is basically what the going rate would be for these types of projects.
Mr. Berger.
I had similar question to what Joe had. The IDA said that it's $5,000 per megawatt, and like Jason just explained, the county share is the $1,159. But my question, when they use that word community solar, how do the folks go about, Jason, getting a reduction in their electric bill with the community solar?
Oh, that's a good question, Mr. Burke. Community solar is a term that is used for a number of different types of projects. So in this instance, the community solar component may be just associated with the size. Community solar projects are often 5 megawatts, around 5 megawatts or less, versus industrial size solar, such as the Northside development or the Rich Road development, which are about 180 to 240 megawatts in size. So how do individuals get a reduction? Is they would need to sign up for a specific solar development project, and it may or may not be in the community where they live. For instance, if you live in the town or village of Potsdam, proximate to this site, you may or may not be getting a reduction in your solar from your energy costs from this specific site. You may be associated with another development in another part of the county or even another part of the state. So there's a lot of, I guess, nuance that goes with that term community solar.
Not to put you on the spot, Jason, but I'm wondering if at some point we could get that information and share it with the public as to how they might go about it. This would certainly be a good year for a reduction in energy cost. And the other question is that even though this 5,000 per megawatt is the going rate, other communities have been securing host community agreements where the municipality would get something extra, so to speak.
Correct. Yes, that is something that could be negotiated with the applicant and the community. Unfortunately, I believe that the county is excluded from host community agreements. It's with the local jurisdiction
Right.
is the primary contender for a host community agreement.
Right. Thanks, Jason.
You're welcome.
Mr. Forsyth.
Jason, just a question, megawatt, what's the average number of homes 1 megawatt can handle?
Wow. I'm afraid I don't have that right off the top of my head, Mr. Forsyth. I can get that information for you, though.
Okay.
Yeah. 400 rings a bell, but I wouldn't want to say that definitively. Let me take a look, and I'll get that number for you.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Mrs. Haggard. Mrs. Haggard, please.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fotenauer, Potsdam Town worked very hard putting together parameters for solar projects and requirements. And am I right to assume that this project falls within their local law and the okay, good. I
Yes.
see you now.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay.
This project was reviewed at both the county and town level. The county planning board and local planning board, town of Potsdam planning board reviewed this project. The county did so in August of 2021, made some comments back to the town of Potsdam about the law that you spoke of and how this project was incorporated in with that law, and made some other comments about how it could tweak the Potsdam law. And my understanding is that the town of Potsdam did do that, and the town approved this project as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Jason, does the town of Potsdam own this land? And how many acres is it?
I believe the acreage is 40 some acres. And no, it is privately held.
It is, I'm sorry, it's private?
It's private. It's not owned by the town.
And was it formerly agricultural land?
There was some agricultural activity on the land. We did in the county planning board's review. We did look at that. There is a small portion in the northwest eastern section that is prime agricultural land, but it makes up a very small percentage of the total array footprint.
Good. All right, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Fortenauer? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Good night.
So next up is Community Services, Jay Ulrich, and the resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a contract with NCC Systems, Inc. for security system equipment installation and maintenance for the opioid treatment program. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Perkins. And Ms. Kern. Go ahead, Mr. Ulrich.
Okay, so we went through, good evening. Thank you. We went through the RFP process with this. We originally had 4 vendors. 1 vendor dropped out, leaving 3. So we did the matrix, the scoring matrix, and NCC scored the highest. So we met with them Thursday to kind of nail down the final logistics of the security bill for the opioid treatment program. Previously, Resolution 41 of 2022 authorized $23,393 of a SAP block grant for towards this purchase, and then the remaining balance, $1,557, will be paid through CASA monies. So we're asking that we authorize the chair to sign a contract with NCC.
Okay, Jay, just for clarification, did you say that NCC was the highest bid or the lowest?
No, the highest score. The highest score in the RFP. Yes.
Can you tell us how many actually put a bid in?
There was originally 4, and then 1 dropped out, so there was 3.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions for Mr. Ulrich? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, Jay, can you give us an OTB progress update, please?
Yes. So the Bureau of Justice that disseminated the CASA grant, they approved the addiction services as a sub-awardee and released the funding to community service for that purpose. In terms of staffing, we are bringing Dr. Norris on board for the medical director. We have a tentative start date of April 25th for that. We have a clinic manager who is currently working with us. This is an internal promotion. She was a RN. She's working on her master's degree, and she's had management supervisory experience. So we are looking to promote her. That will leave one nurse for the clinic to backfill when she gets promoted. For the start of this project, we'll be using existing staff until the census grows, counseling staff, excuse me, until the census grows. And then we'll have to take a look at bringing on additional counselors for this project. In terms of purchases for the project, we have purchased the safe, we have purchased the dispensing window and the pump. Like I said before, we do the resolution that just passed for the security. That's going to be a projected 60-day build to install the security system. Things that are tentatively holding up the project would be the doors. We need some steel doors to replace the wooden doors for security purposes. And the steel doors were 12 weeks out. And so we're looking at other alternatives for the steel doors with a veneer on them. So they might likely just be painted doors. Another holdup would be the flooring. So we're trying to work through that process. We did get the steel 2x4s that we needed for the construction of the closet, so to speak, for the safe. And then additionally, we have one county contract with Bessie, which is a drug company. And we would like some alternative contracts with other drug companies to ensure that we do not run out of medication for this OTP project. So with that being said, we have a very tentative date of mid-May to open the OTP. So that's approximately 6.5 months from the time that we were awarded the project. So, but again, that's tentative because, with COVID and, the supply chain, there's always, not always, but there's sometimes a hiccup that we haven't foreseen. But that's the tentative date. We're working with one of the sub-awardees, that being Community Services in Seaway Valley, to begin an educational campaign for the community. We are going to have to take another visit to Fredo over in Watertown, who's been doing OTP for a number of years, just to get some more advice on the particulars in terms of workflows, the billing for the medication. One thing you do not want to have to occur is you run out of medication. So we always have to keep medication in stock for the project. So we're going to look at their process and how they do that. And then also, how they did outreach to the community when they first opened several years ago. So, we're making progress. So we are anticipating and excited about, getting this project underway. It's had some hiccups, but we're moving forward.
Well, that's good news, Jay. Any questions for Mr. Elrich? Mr. Bird?
Thank you for the update, Jay. I'm just wondering if you could give us an update on your mobile treatment, the vehicle that you're looking to purchase.
Yes. So they do have the VIN number for the vehicle, which allows us to be reimbursed for the initial down deposit of about $84,000. They're anticipating that cab and chassis to be delivered early in the third quarter of this year. So that is cutting it close, as the grant, the expectation for the grant that we will have the vehicle delivered to us by the end of September. But they have assured us that they'll be able to make that a priority and do the build.
Thanks, Jay.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much, Jay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a resolution from the Recreational Trails Advisory Board. Mr. Arquette, would you like to introduce this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer a resolution in support of all terrain vehicle and snowmobile access on the recently acquired New York State Conservation easement lands known as the South Branch Grass River Track and the Cranberry Forest, and I move for its adoption.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Perkins and Mr. Smithers, Mr. Denisha. Mr. Arquette, would you like to speak to this resolution?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and as well, could I be added as a co-sponsor to this resolution?
Certainly.
Thank you. So I think everybody on the board is aware that since 2006 that this board has worked diligently to create a multi-use trail to span the entire county. And then in 2014, the mileage was doubled and an aggressive move forward was made in this project. Now in 2021, the state of New York utilized $4.3 million of our taxpayer money to purchase nearly 8,000 acres of land that is known as the South Branch Grass River Tract and the Cranberry Forest. And those tracts of land, 947 to be used for the ADK preserve, with 7,000 under the conservation easement. This is in the heart of our snowmobile, ATV, UTV country. This is a very critical piece of property that we're, formally requesting via this resolution that the state of New York, the governor's office, along with the DEC, work towards a recreational plan that will include the use of motorized recreation, snowmobiles, ATVs, and UTVs. In Lewis County, and again, we created the trail system on behalf of our residents for recreational purposes, our visitors, but the real underlying motivation has always been for revenue generation. We've utilized the open space areas in our county to create a responsible trail system. We want that to continue, and we need it to go through those 7,000 acres of easement land in that recently purchased property. The Jefferson Community College and the Kemoyan Associates of Saratoga Spring did an economic impact study in neighboring Lewis County within the last couple of years, and that showed over $6.6 million being generated just by the ATV, UTV use in that county, not to mention the snowmobile use. So again, what this resolution does is it begins a process and in making sure that the DEC and the governor's office work towards a motorized recreation and the multi-use trail, which again, it advantages not only motorized recreation, but literally all types of user groups would have access to our trail. And again, we needed to get through that section of forest, and I encourage you all to support that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Bird.
Thank you for your leadership, Tony, and I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
Okay. Mr. Sheridan.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd also like to be added as a co-sponsor, and great leadership, Tony.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Perkins.
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor also. Thank you.
Ms. Curran.
I would also like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. So next up is our vacancy review committee. We have Mrs. Doyle.
So we have three remaining items for you to consider out of the vacancy review that took place this month. The first is from our One-Stop Career Center in Wioa. I believe Barb is with us. And then we have a couple to be presented from Highway. Barb?
Sure, thank you. We're looking to hire someone that will be called our DRC, our Disabilities Resource Coordinator. The first 3 years of this hiring would be funded completely by New York State Department of Labor, $100,000 per year. It's a 3-year pilot program. The job of the DRC would concentrate their efforts on helping those currently receiving public benefits, SSI or SSDI, to gain employment. The local workforce area would receive payments for services offered to individuals with disabilities, and this income would fund the position after the 3-year pilot program was over. Primarily, the DRC's time will be spent focusing on developing relationships with employers and businesses, as well as appropriate partnerings with agencies such as Veterans Affairs, Commission for the Blind, Access VR, et cetera, to ensure success in employment for these folks.
Any questions? Mr. Denisha?
Yeah. Barb, I think it's a very good program. But I'm curious as to what the success metrics are.
That's a terrific question. This is a relatively new program for most of New York State. There are areas that do have a DRC in place. And I have asked on numerous occasions how their funding works to make sure that moving forward, this could be a self-sustaining program. My understanding, honestly, at this point, is that they're going to offer training through New York State Department of Labor. They really want to see this to be successful. So what we would do in the first 3 years is that we would actually meet with other DRCs to find out what is a reasonable income level to be realizing through the work of the DRC in the first, second, and third year, and try to set goals to make sure that we would be successful moving forward. So I don't really have any metrics for this area in particular. We're kind of still culling that information.
Okay, well, when you do, we certainly appreciate you sharing it with us.
I surely would.
Thank you.
Mr. Forsythe has a question, Barb.
Bart, is there any incentive for employers that you're aware of to utilize that to offset the cost possibly, or anything along those lines?
Yes, there is. I don't believe the incentive is monetary so much as the fact that in working with the DRC, they would ensure that the employees that were chosen for specific roles and in certain job instances were a really good fit. So the program might include some job coaching. It might include some upskilling, those kinds of things. And the idea that the main focus of the DRC would be to try to find the best fit for a person. Let's say, for instance, you had a veteran who was returning, who had been injured and was considered disabled, spent some time healing in the process, came to the DRC, would be actually, will have a connection with the Social Security Administration to try to find out who is ready to go back to work. And then we would arrange to try to find the best fit for those folks. So we could work closely with Veterans Affairs. We could work with maybe Commission on the Blind and try to offer the best services for people to make sure that the employer was getting what they needed as well.
Can I just follow up there? Under the SSI and the SSDI, I think it is, there's income levels, right? I think you can only earn a certain amount. Is that still in place? And once you exceed a certain amount, then you'll lose a benefit maybe on the health insurance or whatever side, correct? Or?
That is built into the program that I believe your benefits are not affected for a very long period of time. The point of the program is to not have someone go backwards in their income level, but to incentivize. In one of the webinars that I sat in on, they said someone will never make less being employed than they were receiving for their benefits, health insurance included. That is built into the program.
Okay, that's good, because I know years ago, I think it was absolutely opposite of that, so good.
Yep,
Because that was
much
always-
conversation around the fact that people need to be incentivized for taking on a position, yes.
Good, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
Mr. Burke.
This proposal, this new job creation would spend about 3/4 of the $100,000, at least for the first year. Are you allowed to bill for administration or supervision, or?
All of those things are built into that $100,000 budget that we were allotted by the Department of Labor. Yes, it has to encompass everything. Salary, fringe, travel, training. It's tight. I can tell you for certain it is a tight budget.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Reagan.
Barbara, I just want to thank you for working on this. I think individuals with disabilities, developmental and intellectual disabilities, and others are some of the hardest people to find employment for. And often it takes a real effort and a special kind of relationship to help get employers to see past the disabilities and see that sometimes individuals with these conditions can be some of their most productive and loyal long-term employees. So I know it's a difficult field, but I want to commend you and your organization for your efforts in trying to provide this kind of critical assistance to individuals who otherwise would have no hope at all. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that.
Okay, so next up is Highway.
Yes, I believe Don is with us.
Are you with us, Mr. Chambers? There you go. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, the first position that is up to be looked at is a motor equipment operator position. This position opened up due to a lateral move of one of our employees into a vacant position in the bridge crew. The motor equipment operator operates snowplow and does other labor and other equipment operations during the winter months. During construction season, they're involved in various operations with road construction. The staffing levels for motor equipment operators and and such at the department. We have just enough employees to cover the snowplow routes that we have and the shifts that we have. So any vacancy results in overtime in order to cover the vacancies.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Chambers? Okay, don't have any. Let's move on to the next one, Mr. Chambers.
Thank you. The next one is a motor equipment mechanic. This position was vacated due to a promotion of an individual into another vacant position within the mechanic shop. The motor equipment mechanic does repair work on various equipment for the Department of Highways, and also is involved in fleet maintenance for the entire county, be it the cars or pickup trucks and other departments, along with highway department vehicles and equipment.
Okay. Any questions about funding this position? I see none, Mr. Chambers. I think you're free to go.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Next up is our county administrator's report, Ruth Doyle. And the resolution is modifying the 2022 budget for the county clerk's office for a license plate cutter for the Department of Motor Vehicles. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Forsythe. Go ahead, Mrs. Doyle.
So this resolution is a return, as it mentions in the language, a revisit of one that was passed late in 2021. Our interest is in completing this transaction. However, we weren't able to complete this before the year end. So as you see in the budget transaction here, it allows us to take the funds that you previously approved and move it into the 2022 budget so we can make that purchase.
Okay, any questions for Mrs. Doyle? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Mr. Lightfoot. Thank you.
And just a few other items, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Certainly.
So I'd like to provide you with a COVID update on the weeks that our Public Health Director and Dr. Williams don't join us. They'll be back on Monday at the board meeting to share an update on information. But certainly there's been quite a few developments over the weekend. I did want to give you the quick tally of the numbers that we're looking at over the weekend. We had 48 on Saturday, 37 on Sunday, and 51 recorded today. So we are seeing a dramatic decrease to just 4 weeks ago. Did want to remind you that we are going to be continuing to push out supplies. We have an overabundance of test kits. We'll be providing another round of those to our employees, as well as the masks that have been provided by the state. We're working now to package those so that we can push those out to the local municipalities, understanding that while we held a very successful distribution event, not everyone could make it to Canton. So we want to make that easier, and we'll work with the towns and villages. We're separating that out. If you remember, we made a mass distribution early on to towns and villages that they were able to make available to their residents. We want to push those out just as soon as we can get those together. And certainly legislators, if you're interested in helping us make that transfer, we're always happy to help you make that delivery. Did want to mention, as a result of the discussions yesterday, Governor Hochul announced taking some action to relieve schools and daycares of the mask mandate, but also indicated in those comments that counties and cities could make their own mask mandates if they so chose. And in the midst of all of this, the CDC has again changed the metrics by which they're looking at the risk or level they deem to be of concern. So we're looking at changes relative to an under 200 and an over 200 amount for the per 100,000 7-day rolling average. So we're looking at a little bit greater of a span when we're looking at the totals that will now categorize a low, a medium, or a high. So when this announcement was made, there were 11 counties in New York who met the criteria of high. And St. Lawrence County, Clinton County, and Franklin were among them in the North Country region. So in looking at this yesterday afternoon, Dr. Williams and Jolene immediately started looking at the data and have now updated the information. As we understand, there are fewer in the hospital now. I believe the last report was 2. They have now determined that when the CDC updates their guidance and their language, that we will now fall into the low category. And so the balance of that discussion included for the mask mandate in schools and daycares, when there's still a high community level, that counties may want to consider implementing their own mask mandate. However, in talking with both of them throughout the day, their interest will be to not have St. Lawrence County. I've also talked with Chairman Sheridan to not move forward with the mask mandate for St. Lawrence County. So I did want to share that with you. That will change, as you may have heard, on Wednesday. So technically the last full day with masks in schools and daycares will be tomorrow. So we'll be preparing a press release identifying the changes that the CDC guidance has included, also the supplies that we have available, but also indicating the county will not be moving forward issuing its own mask mandate. Also, I had a state leaders call today hosted by the state talking about this very issue and indicated to us that that will be the only change that they will see or expect to see this week. There were questions raised about the SUNY schools, the CUNY schools. They indicated they weren't expecting to see a change with that this week, but didn't indicate going forward what that might look like. Also, they made clarification that school buses fall under the federal government as far as transit is concerned. And the federal government has also made an exception for school buses that masks are no longer required there either. However, in the midst of these conversations, also recommending to counties to continue building and maintaining a robust testing program. And I can tell you, we certainly have the home test kit supplies to do just that. So we'll continue to push those out. Certainly, if folks have questions or come to you with concerns for testing supplies, send them our direction. We're happy to help. Any questions on COVID?
Mr. Forsythe.
So Ruth, basketball season, playoffs are going as of Wednesday. A parent that wants to watch their child play basketball no longer needs to wear a mask. It's their choice.
Our understanding, Mr. Chair, if I can answer?
Yes.
Our understanding is if their games were at their school, it would be an acceptable practice. However, we've moved over to the SUNY schools, so I'm not sure about that. But I hope that the players will no longer, while they practice, have to wear masks.
Yes.
So we'll let you know if that changes.
Mr. Lightfoot.
Ruth, what figures were used in order to make this calculation of where we were low, medium, or high when it was originally done? Did they use every case of diagnosed COVID as the number? Or, I think the more appropriate number would be how many cases in school turned out? Just as a point of information.
Certainly. So I'm not certain, and I did not hear that they calculated the totals associated with school infections. What they have changed, at least the CDC's guidance, is the 7-day rolling average of the per 100,000 by county. So they're using that 200 as the magic number above and below to change the risk level, but they're also measuring the 7-day total, the 7-day average of both admissions to the hospital as well as hospital bed occupancy.
For all ages.
For all ages is my understanding. And as you may recall, in looking both at our reporting as well as the state, they have separated out now in the hospital setting, both the for COVID and incidental COVID. And from that perspective, we aren't sure, but our hope is that they're only looking at the for COVID admissions to make some of these calculations.
Okay.
Yep. Also, just as a reminder, on February 18th, we stopped mapping, as it were. As we know in the case counts we've looked at, we have just about every town illuminated on those mapping sets that we were looking at for the 5 days of the week. So we've stopped doing that, but we will start looking at a metric of this low, medium, and high and see if we can also illustrate that for you so that can be tracked. Because if in fact there are changes in the future associated with that, the public should know where we fit and what those numbers look like. I think Mrs. Haggard had a question.
Mrs. Haggard.
First of all, I want to say how sorry I am because I'm sure Kevin is very upset about this news, knowing how he feels. Second of all, a kind of a two-part thing. there are tests everywhere. They're easy to get now. Have they taken into account that a lot of people are testing positive, not reporting it? Is there some sort of a way that we can know this, or is there just no way we can know it? And secondly, do the school boards or the individual superintendents have any say in this, or is this a total county decision at this point?
So I believe that schools can make a different decision. They have that leniency, I believe, correct?
I would
Mr.
defer to the
Buckman?
county attorney on
Let's refer
that.
to the county attorney.
Yeah, that's correct. In fact, over the course of the last 2 years, I think there's been a real question as to whether or not a different form of government could subordinate a separate local government. And that arose issues associated with the enforcement provisions that came through in the public health law. What they ultimately concluded was that even if the county does not impose its own mandate, that the schools themselves have the authority to regulate within their own confines. So yes, a school district theoretically has the ability to impose, if it so chose, its own mask mandate.
Okay.
Just to follow up.
Oh, yes, go ahead. Thank
Oh, thank you. I just want to shout out to all the school districts. I've been in a few this past 2 years, at how great the kids were. The kids were great about following the rules. Teachers were good too, but if you've been in a school and you've seen how they've behaved and the kids accepting this, some kids don't know school without a mask. So this will be good news. Thank you.
Yes, freedom will reign by Wednesday. Mr. Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want, I hope Ruth will pass on to the Public Health Director and Dr. Williams my thanks, and I think the board's thanks for making the effort to review the data and bringing into account the new information and making the determination that we are a low area. Because I believe this will come as a very agreeable revelation to many people in the county, many of whom were concerned about what was happening and whether or not we were a high area and would not be able to have our schools end the mask mandate. So we have often said that our children, helping them to remove the masks and be safe and be able to attend school and enjoy the benefits of going to school, having the mask will do a great deal for that. And I just appreciate the fact that our public health officials, made the extra effort in order to, that shows that it can be done safely and, can encourage our school districts to follow the science. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Mrs. Doyle?
I do, just a couple of other items. I have a transfer of funds to report out to you per local law C from the year 2011. I report out any transfers of funds that I'm allowed to provide between the 200 and the 400 accounts. And I'm reporting to you there was $4,533 transferred with the sheriff's office due to the increased cost of ammunition and training supplies this year. So they have transferred some and made some accommodation in other equipment from a tablet and radar perspective. So we'll be able to accommodate that. I did need to bring to your attention a change in timeline associated with the revenue that the county has enjoyed for a number of years in the probation department, and that is the alternatives to incarceration revenue we receive on an annual basis through a grant from DCJS. They have shortened the timeline to return the application. We've also straightened out the fact the chair is required to sign So we need, if it's okay and acceptable to this committee and then the board, to provide an opportunity for a resolution of approval to go directly to the board meeting this month to ensure that $28,421 isn't missed in the timeline of the application process. No big changes. What it provides for is salary attached to supervisor for their pretrial program. So if there's no objection, I'd be happy to prepare that and send that out in your agenda for the March board meeting.
I see no dissent.
Okay. Later this week, I'll be meeting with the new director from the Children's Home of Jefferson County. She was on site, met with social services, also met with community services. So I believe that's scheduled for Wednesday this week. Also wanted to make you aware that the totals for sales tax in February were sent out this afternoon by Treasurer Cole, as well as the December bank reconciliations have also been uploaded to your Google Drive. I did just want to mention 2 items that the county is, and specifically my office will be looking at pretty carefully over the next few months. We're going to look at a couple of things related to agenda building and meeting hosting platform. You know, we've learned through COVID, why didn't we always have our meetings on broadcast and electronic participation encouraged and allowed. Now, while we don't know yet what the remote capability will be for members, what we do know is that it increases the visibility to the public and it gets that information out there. However, makeshifting through COVID, making Zoom work, putting it up on YouTube, you know, we'd like to bring you a comprehensive package of what it should look like so that we also can capture the agendas in a way that allows for real-time voting. We use a roll call program that's homegrown. Sometimes, as certainly all of us have been a part of a challenge getting that up and running. So all of that we're taking a look at. We do have a couple of ideas, but that's something that we'd like to be able to bring to you to review this year to have in place for the new board coming in 23. We also have noted over the last at least 6, probably 8 months, the challenges with Google Drive being the repository for board information. And so in looking at that also, and trying to establish what makes sense for a repository, also looking at the age of the iPads that we currently use, what would make sense? Does it make sense for legislators potentially to look at like a Chromebook setup, so there's more like a laptop environment for typing and returning information?
I wonder if they can hear us.
I saw Dylan run to it, so he must know. There they go. We're back.
Okay. You were at talk.
There we go.
So that wasn't planned for those who are attending electronically, but it was very well timed. So I just wrapped up saying, you know, we're looking at things for this purpose, also for what the public can see, and something a little bit more reliable. Also, the machine called the SX20 here in the room with us is also moving out of being supported. So we're looking at technology from that perspective. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that. We have a state audit that's being conducted, started today in the HEAP unit of DSS, and I will bring you information and updates as I have them. Also, Bonadillo Group and outside counsel were on site last week. They met with supervisors as well as began some of the meetings with the complainants, and this will continue into the coming week. They were also on site. Some of the files that they're taking a look at are pretty robust. Some can be easily transmitted electronically, others not so. And so they were able to sit here and take a look at those files. And the last thing that I wanted to mention to you is that finally, March is here tomorrow, the 62nd day of 2022. And we're looking this week to celebrate and recognize a special day in 1802. that this Thursday, we'll celebrate the 220th anniversary. Some of you, I understand, will be joining us, and if any of your schedules free up, we'd love to have as many there as possible. We are expecting chillier temperatures, but we'd like to have a gathering near the site and hold a program that Legislator Reagan's going to MC for us. Legislator Lightfoot is going to share some information with us, as well as the keynote speaker, Julie Madlin, who's the Ogdensburg historian, to share portions of our county's rich history. So please let us know if that's something that you can join us for. I'm hoping also to record it so that we can share that with folks on our website. And if possible, we'd like to visit the site, which is going to be just across the road. So stay tuned for that. We also will be sharing with you all commemorative lapel pins with the seal of the County of St. Lawrence with the commemorative years of 1802 to 2022. So lastly, Friday, March 4th is two things: Employee Appreciation Day as well as National Safety Day. So we're looking to hopefully pull some things together to let our employees know that we appreciate their work. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Mrs. Haggard, you had your hand up. Did you want to make a comment?
Oh, well, Mrs. Doyle answered my question. I was hoping somebody was going to record it because some of us can't make it, and I would love to see that. So thank you very much for doing that.
Mr. Reagan, are you going to supply the muskets? We're going to fire off muskets in commemoration.
I think, you know, I might be able to arrange that, but I was thinking more of our children. Get some cannons on site and
George Prescott.
You know, fire someone across the river.
Okay.
I think Legislator Lightfoot is volunteered, or to fire me, you know, one of you.
Two colors are coming out now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Let's move on to, thank you, Mrs. Doyle. Let's move on to committee reports. First up is Cornell Cooperative Extension with Mr. Denisha.
Chairman, we have not had a meeting since my last report.
Okay. Fish and Wildlife Management Board, Region 6, Ms. Curran.
Our next meeting is on March 17th, and I reported about the one before that.
Thank you. Fisheries Advisory Board, Mrs. Terminelli.
Our next meeting is on the 22nd, so I will have a report at the next finance meeting.
Thank you. Governor Fair Board, Mr. Smithers.
Yes, they have continued with some of the officers for this year that they've had in the past. Beth Martin is still president. John Wright's vice president. Don Peck, second vice president. Secretary and treasurer continue as before. This year's fair is scheduled for August 2nd through the 7th, second being the Tuesday. And if this board wishes, I'll ask them if they're willing to host our meeting on August 1st again, as they did last year. They have some events planned, Boy Scouts weekend in June and another one in July. Entertainment this year, they contacted Sawyer Brown, and I haven't heard if that's been finalized. I think that it has, but I'm not sure about that. And that would be for Tuesday. Tickets for that concert, they've decided to stage it like they did last year. They thought that was pretty successful, where they faced the infield rather than the grandstand. $50 for reserved seating, $30 general admission. Wednesday continues as band day. Friday is a tractor pull. Saturday is a free concert. Sunday, demolition derby. And that's about all for now on the fair board.
Okay. Well, we have you, Mr. Smithers, the Highway and Solid Waste Committee.
Nothing further than what's already been presented by Don Chambers.
Good, thank you,
This is the construction of the outbuildings. These were put on in Lisbon, Russell, and Potsdam. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smithers. The IDA, Industrial Development Agency, Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Several items to report. The IDA was very pleased to pass a $20 million bond inducement resolution that'll help the Stauffer Farm in the town of Lawrence, which to build or put in a anaerobic manure biodigester that will produce biogases that will be used by Liberty Gas to introduced into their system to distribute as part of the natural gas and biogas program. The IDA is hoping that this will be the beginning of a relationship, a greater relationship between the IDA and some of our farms that want to participate in this kind of biogas production program with Liberty Gas by helping them reduce their costs and make it easier for them to and Liberty Gas take advantage of the carbon credits that are available with this. This will also create 2 technical jobs at that farm in addition to their current employment. The IDA also approved a $250,000 loan to Riverside Iron and Governor, which will allow them to buy additional equipment to expand some of the products that they produce there, and that'll allow them to add an additional 2 employees to the company and help the firm expand the products that it produces. They also were quite pleased that they were successful working with Dunn Paper in Governor to obtain a $1.8 million grant to improve the railroad track and railroad bridge that will allow Dunn Paper to use the railroad, CSX railroad, to ship their products around the country and reduce their operational costs, as well as a $900,000 grant that'll be used to improve the railroad crossing at the Alcoa Arconic property. The IDA has been working with Alcoa and Arconic to help develop a new industrial park in the Messina area, and this will make it more attractive. And meanwhile, they continue working with current renewables on a $900,000 project to expand the sawmill at the former ACO project in the town of Oswegatchie, just west of the city of Ogdensburg. This grant will help current increase employment from 5 employees to 20 employees and help the company continue this new sawmill operation to continue using locally produced timber and producing products that can be used here in St. Lawrence County. So it's the kind of sustainable forestry and industrial development that we really need to help grow local companies to use locally produced resources and provide good paying jobs for people in the county. So the IDA was very pleased with and to have such a wide variety of projects reaching from the town of Lawrence to the town of Governor, and you know, every little bit helps.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reagan. Next up, our Recreational Trails Advisory Board, Mr. Perkins.
I'll
defer to Mr. Arquette. Tony?
Either way. So obviously the snow continues to fall, which is a great for our snowmobiling season. It's continued on. It started out a little bit slow, but it's been a pretty good season. I talked with Dylan earlier today, and he and Don Chambers are working on this coming year's trail passes. So that'll be a good thing to get rolling, and hopefully we'll go right from snowmobile season with a short delay to get the trails ready, and then have a fantastic ATV UTV season this summer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Arquette. Next up is the St. Lawrence River Valley Redevelopment Agency, the RVRDA, Mr. Forsyth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's always tough following Mr. Reagan, but of the Riverside Iron project, half of that was sponsored by the RVRDA, $125,000 loan. I guess they have two large products that, two large orders that will help them do well, I hope, for the future. The other thing is the CDEIP grants are available. The applications, I believe, are on the IDA website. I encourage everyone from the northern, southern, western, eastern part of the county to apply. The applications and whoever you have apply, do as thorough a job as possible. They are graded, it's prioritized, and I just encourage everyone to apply. I look forward to this each year. You know, there's been a lot of good projects that have been accomplished through this, and I'd like to see some more good ones. So besides that, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Forsyth. Next up is St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce, Mrs. Haggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a very good report tonight. Lots of things going on. The Chamber is partnering with an attendance at two upcoming trade shows, one next week in Hamburg, New York, and one in May in Ottawa. Tourism partners are invited to share the booth, share their love of the county, and meet with prospective visitors. Call the Chamber at 315-386-4000 if you're interested. A cooperative marketing campaign has just been approved by I Love New York under the tagline, "Discover a weekend away on New York's northern border." Tourism partners are invited to cost share on the streaming TV campaign that will feature their property within the branding of the county. The digital TV campaign will be distributed in several drive markets, including Canada, beginning in May and running throughout the summer. Come to the northern border. Upcoming additions to the St. Lawrence County Trails.com include a couple of barn quilt trail driving routes, which will be packaged into experiences pitched to small bus groups. In addition, several paddling routes along the Racket River will be added to the site ahead of the summer season. This addition was funded through a grant from the Racket River Advisory Council. The Chamber will host the Visit St. Lawrence County Tourism Dinner on Wednesday, May 25th at Pickens Hall in Uvalton. The dinner will include a happy hour and presentation highlighting positive trends we are seeing in the industry. All community elected and tourism partners are welcome and encouraged to attend. And I have the RSVP email here if you'd like to attend. I hope you will. Relative to other chamber programming, a few endeavors are particularly worth highlighting. The Love Local campaign wrapped up today. The initiative included cost-sharing radio advertising and gift card sales at www.shopstlc.com. Sales have been matched to businesses thanks to the contributions from Alcoa and the NBT Bank. 32 member businesses participated. And as of this morning, 150 gift cards had been sold in the amount of $5,550 for total impact to businesses of $11,000. In partnership with STLC Business Connection Committee, the Chamber hosted a Business Connections event in Augsburg at Northwest Tech BOCES facility on February 16th. for student-led tours and informational programs. More than 30 business leaders and business support entities attended and learned how BOCES can help meet the workforce needs. Go BOCES. Additional business connections will be held at the Seaway Tech Center in Norwood on March 22nd and at the Southwest Tech Center in Fowler on April 28th. The Chamber is advancing its resident recruitment efforts. The Chamber and the IDA tabled at the Clarkson Cold Out Gold Out event this past weekend and will be participating in other events over the course of the year, including the Messina Mega Reunion and additional outreach is being made with the Drum County Business, the STLC Revitalization Tourism and Mindset Working Group. A group called the North Country Ambassadors will be planning a welcoming and retention activities. We'd be good ambassadors, I think, for that. Engagement with Fort Drum continues. These activities and others, additional programming in February are detailed in the update that was sent out to all of you, and please feel free to contact the Chamber at 315-386-4000. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Haggard. I have a question, I think, Mr. Smithers.
I have a question for Margaret. Now, in
I'll
your
try to answer.
advertisement, in your advertisement for vacationing in North Country property, how are you spelling the word bear?
A what? I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
In your advertising for vacationing on North Country property, how are you spelling the word bear?
You mean like big grizzly? Harry?
Okay, let's move on. So,
Oh, okay. I guess that was a joke. Okay, thank you. That's funny. Bear? B-E-A-R, bear? Okay.
Okay.
I'll be
Soil
over
and water.
there. Wait.
Okay, thank you. Soil and Water Conservation District Board, Mr. Burke.
We had a meeting this past Wednesday. The Canton USDA building that houses soil and water has increased the staffing capacity back to 50%. The public can enter the building with appointments. County Forester has been working on the paperwork portion of the forestry management plan, utilizing the field inventory that was completed last summer. There is also a forestry component that's going to be with the AEM plans, and our county forester has started gathering information and learning about what's going to be required for that component. The technician, Giovanna Foster, has been working with AEM and EQIP. The ag values, the demand for ag values has been coming in pretty steadily. Tree orders have slowed, and as of last Wednesday, there were only a few species left. We had a report from NCRS, NRCS, excuse me. 1.6 million was paid out for 3 projects that included the EQIP, Conservation Stewardship, and the Wetland Reserve. We also had a report from New York State Soil and Water Conservation Committee, Ryan Cunningham, who is the Region 4 analyst. Climate resistant farming program, round 6, $8 million is available to support agricultural projects and related equipment purchases that aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and help agricultural producers prepare for and better manage impacts of climate change. Deadline for that is March 28th. The agricultural non-point source program round 28, 13 million is available to support agricultural water quality conservation projects across the state. The deadline for that is May 2nd. There is an increase, there is an anticipation of increased funding to soil and water, the local soil and water, to assist them with their programs. And Kevin shared with the board, Soil and Water Board, that the information that he had secured about the insurance for drones, and that it was not worth the investment. Anyways, that's it, Kevin, unless you have something else.
No, thank you, Mr. Burke, that's very thorough. So we, next, let's move on to old and new business. Anyone have any old business? Okay, anyone have any new business? Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want everyone to just close your eyes for a second, not think about sales taxes for any other negotiations. I've been asked to come forward. The Diamond National and the Shade Roller sites are about 600,000-ish from being cleaned up. The city has taken the initiative to pay off their past debt of 800 and some thousand. I think they got 400,000 left. That's going to be paid up in the next couple of months, I believe. What I'm proposing here, I'd like to see if there's support for, is for us to make an investment in contaminated property in the city of Island. 413,000. We could in turn, once we receive it, turn it back to offset the cost of the 600,000. I think they would be willing to, based on the sale of the property, reimburse us somewhat. I think there's a lot of negotiation that can take place with it. I think of the 70+ parcels that we've probably taken care of over the last several years, and Orangeburg doesn't have any. This is probably the most valuable piece of all the parcels, maybe of almost all of them together. So I encourage my colleagues to support it. I don't have a resolution to bring forward, but I'm just trying to plant a seed, whether you want to use American Recovery Fund or how we want to do it. I leave it to the will of the board, but they're about 600 grand as far as I know to get those two sites, and I believe there's developers ready to go. So it would behoove us as a county with tax revenues for future, and I just think it would be a terrific investment, and I encourage you all to consider it. So, thank you.
So I think as to this date, there's 64 properties. I think the properties that we haven't had any county costs.
77.
Pardon me?
77.
77 now. Can you speak to that as far as county costs on the other properties that we've done, or I think the ballot insurance?
I don't mind speaking to that. We actually have had nominal county costs associated with those properties, primarily maintained in performing both our phase 1 and phase 2 examinations of the parcels. The largest expense associated with those parcels has been maintained by the state through our partnership with the DEC and the oil spill fund. Not to relegate our own contribution to some position of inferiority, but to identify that the lion's share of financial expense associated with digging at the sites has been borne by the state, and it's been a wonderful partnership. But yes, we have completed fully, and completed is defined as gone to auction, sold off 60 parcels. We have 17 that are currently pending at some various phase, whether in phase 1, phase 2, or awaiting auction at the moment.
If I follow, the reason I bring it up is most of those are contaminated gas or petroleum based. Ogdensburg's not going to qualify. They've taken care of, you visited the sites, they've taken care of the petroleum base, but there is some other PCBs or whatever that are involved that aren't part of the reimbursement level. So that's what they've got it finalized. And any other?
I'm very familiar with the Diamond National site, very familiar with the Shade Roller site. I believe I've spoken to the board about both of those sites before. The board initially authorized both myself and Mr. Bowich to engage the city of Ogdensburg to provide or render assistance to the city of Ogdensburg. We had 3 meetings associated with those parcels. At the conclusion of those meetings, we left it to the city of Ogdensburg to decide how they wish to proceed with our assistance. We were told that they would contact us to follow up, and then contact for whatever reason did not continue. We were aware at the time that there was a larger amount of money that would be needed specifically for the shade roller site. I think we estimated that cost for cleanup that remained at the shade roller site was approximately $625,000. What Mr. Forsyth is relaying is, as far as I know, accurate based on our own understanding of assessment of that property. But I'm more than happy to discuss it further with anybody that would like to discuss it.
Okay, Mr. Lightfoot, you had your hand up?
Yeah, it's been my understanding for a good period of time that the Diamond National property has been cleaned up and there's no more cleanup to do there. That it is available for not only use, but for sale. And I do believe that they had some outreach for that. If my memory serves me correct, that you at one time were supposed to be involved in.
We had discussions associated with the Diamond National site. It was communicated to us at the onset that it was in fact completed, that they were prepared to market it forward and finish the project. We received some information that suggested that might not be as accurate as we had been communicating. But we weren't able to fully confirm our suspicions before communication sort of stopped on that end. So,
If I may.
Okay. Yep.
So was there any identification of what needed to be done then at the Diamond National property?
we couldn't fully confirm on the Diamond National. We were provided a significant amount of information associated with the shade roller, and we were able to assess the full extent of what we believe was required to complete shade roller. We were able to assess 3 parcels that are in the general vicinity of the Kiwanis location, but we were not able to fully assess the Diamond National.
Yeah, Mr. Reagan.
And just to clarify, I think I want to echo Dave's suggestion. I think where the city needs some assistance is on this shade roller property, which is next to Diamond National. If you've ever been down there, it is right on the St. Lawrence River. It is just like Diamond National, a major treasure in terms of an opportunity for future development. There are not that many prime shoreline locations on the St. Lawrence River that have immediate access to roads, water, sewer, natural gas, electricity. If we can get the pollutants cleaned up at Shade Roller, we have a real opportunity to get a major development to occur on that property that will create additional tax revenue to the county, to the city, to the school district, and create additional jobs and additional growth. The other major property that the city of Ogdensburg is working on is the old Augsbury property, which was just mentioned. That has some contamination on it. And, the problem that the city has been dealing with, and this is something that's been going on for many years, is that the state and federal government have not been providing a lot of money in northern New York to these kinds of cleanups. And at the same time, in terms of developers, they're not willing to, put the money in either. So these properties sit and are vacant year after year after year when they could be producing tax revenues and spurring growth and helping to create jobs and housing opportunities and helping to revive our economy. The Diamond National has a developer who's been designated. The city's working with them. Shade Roller is not going to happen anytime soon unless, and as well as the Augsburg parcel, unless the city gets some assistance and, perhaps the American Rescue Plan would be an excellent source of revenues for it. Because we could get our money back out of it. If we can get that development to occur, if we can get new housing, new commercial businesses, get growth happening on the shore of the St. Lawrence River, that is the future for both Ogdensburg and the surrounding community. So this is a great opportunity, and Dave and I both believe that this is something that we can get done and help spur growth in St. Lawrence County.
Mr. Forsythe.
Just the end is, would it be fair if Jim and I got together with the city and brought forward some sort of idea, which focus and
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I don't.
see if there's anything available?
That's fine with me. As finance chair, Mr. Lightfoot.
We're speaking of the American Recovery Act. Has the city of Ogdensburg made any comments about the over $1 million that they are to receive? Is any of that going towards any of the property cleanups?
Absolutely sure.
I beg your pardon?
Absolutely sure.
I'm saying yes.
Okay, well, I think, look, I see no harm personally of, discussing this and whatnot. But the city needs to have some skin in the game too. And judging from the looks of their finances, it's affordable. And, like I said, I don't have a problem with it. I am not in favor of giving away taxpayers' money from St. Lawrence County, that money that's owed to us, all right? If we can work something out with the ARP money or in some other way, certainly worthy of looking at, in my estimation.
So I'll ask Mr. Button, those properties, they're actually paying, is someone paying the taxes now, or does the city own them?
City owns them.
So the city owns them. So is the city paying? Is
The city, let me clarify.
Okay.
The Shade Roller property, the city owns. The Diamond property, the city owns. The Augsburg parcel, they now own the middle property. The two adjoining properties on either side of the middle property are still in private ownership. And it's up in the air what those owners, what their plans are, what their intentions are. It is believed, that if DEC gets a cleanup going on that middle property, they will get the rest of the property cleaned up as well. I don't know what that means long term But the middle property is the prime property, and getting that moving is critical to whatever's gonna happen over on that side of town as well. And Shade Roller is, you know, also next to Diamond is the next development property.
So Steve, the cleanups that we've been involved with, they have all been foreclosures, is that correct?
We crafted a program with the DEC and the oil spill fund. There are both pre-foreclosure and post-foreclosure agreements. When we reviewed the Oxbury site, we knew where the plume was. We knew how we could get it as it has migrated from a different parcel. I believe it's MCYC. And we knew how we could take care of it. We actually advised the city as to how to move forward so that they could enter into a similar agreement associated with the state. I believe that's what Mr. Reagan is referencing, associated with the ability to acquire the cleanup on the Kiwanis site, which is in the center, and catch the plume, which would be migrating essentially from the southern portion, which is the MCYC parcel north. So yes, we have traditionally had either a pre-foreclosure or a post-foreclosure agreement. That was part of the problem, I believe, that the city was running into, is that the fight that we currently have going on with the city, and from a litigation standpoint, is over who has the right to foreclose within the city. And I don't believe now, given the change in the local law, that the city has taken the position in the court that they have the ability to foreclose on any of the parcels we're on.
Well, it would be nice to help out, though, actually allocating taxpayer dollars, if that process goes. So I don't know if that could actually be done. I mean, I just read that the city, I think it was a statement from the city manager, that the city has $6 million in reserve right now. So 10% of that would cover the cost of cleaning that property up, if you're mentioning 625, right?
Mr. Akers, if I will make the point that as a result of the change in the collection and the foreclosure of our own interests within the city, now, as Mr. Forsyth pointed out, the city, which has not benefited from the program over the course of the last 7 years, will now be eligible for the activities that we have engaged in all the other communities. So it will take a little bit of time as those liens accrue. But as they do, we will start moving into the city of Ogdensburg as we have all the other communities and start taking action.
So how about we leave it this way, the two of you guys get with our county attorney and see if you could come up with a least cost plan for the taxpayers in St. Louis County and see what can be done. I think we'd be open for a discussion for sure. It makes perfect rational economic sense. It is a valuable property. Good. So that was our new business, I believe. Anyone else? Okay. We do have a need for executive session. Mrs. Doyle, for which categories?
One moment. We have negotiations, litigation, personnel, which includes the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And we have appointments.
Okay. To entertain a motion to go into executive session by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Perkins. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.